Hi guys, I'm Nico, the community manager for Blood and Ashes. I'm making this video to address a lot of issues that have been directed towards Blood and Ashes. This video has no hate or ill intent behind it, it's just me giving you the facts. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the compensation. The compensation we've been given is 36% of the current game passes in the game, which are Hope, Dark Jersey, the Heretics and the Originals. I'm seeing a lot of confusion regarding Lizzie and why people have not been compensated for her. The explanation behind this is quite simple. She's not a Game Pass yet. She's been confirmed to be a Game Pass in the near future. We just don't know when. And once she is a Game Pass, that is when you will receive her compensation. However, there's more that I'd like to talk about the compensation after I've explained the other points that I want to make. The next point I'd like to make is Anarchia's closure. Anarchia was closed down by the owners for circumstances that the owner had faced during her account loss. The owner, Carmillis, had been hacked and banned on her account and was failed by Roblox support regarding this. With this being said, her alt account, which was the holder of Anarchia, unfortunately perished with her main account, which left us without full access to Anarchia, meaning we could not access funds, we could not update, and we could not patch any bugs, meaning the game would have become inoperable within the space of a few months, which would be totally unfair for you guys, let's be honest. After all, you have spent so much on that game. We are so grateful for it. However, the decision, although it was hard, it was the correct one to make just for your benefit. Now, the most common question that's been going around is, will my Game Passes transfer and why haven't they transferred? Now, that is because Blood and Ashes and Anarchia are completely separate. Blood and Ashes was never meant to replace Anarchia, nor has it. So the reason behind this is because this game, Blood and Ashes, is under a total different group, meaning that it would be harder to fully transfer everyone successfully, especially losing access to Anarchia and the funds and stuff. The owners still needed to make profit and still needed to pay the developers, and obviously they need the money to continue developing this game. So there's the two reasons why. Obviously they wanted nothing more but to satisfy everyone for this game and make sure everyone was happy. However, there was a lot at risk. Like, this game probably wouldn't have gone any further if they fully transferred. So it would be like a free-for-all, which it sounds alright from a player's point of view. However, from an owner's point of view, especially when I personally believe that they have been personally funding this development since the beginning up until the release. Now, this isn't confirmed information, however, it's just my personal belief. So I just find it kind of unfair how they're being treated. Which leads me on to my next point. Why was Blood and Ashes created? To be totally transparent with you guys, Blood and Ashes was a conversation that the owners had with the HRs whilst Anarchia was in its final days. Now, we had no idea that Anarchia would end up ending the way it did. We was going to keep Anarchia open, but this would be the sister of Anarchia, and it would just progress further and further. However, as much as it looks like from a player's point of view that Blood and Ashes has replaced Anarchia, it really hasn't. Blood and Ashes was never intended to replace Anarchia, and that's a fact right there. Blood and Ashes was the sister of Anarchia originally. So I think that's all for that point. If I think of anything more along the way, then I will speak on it. So that's that. Next, will Anarchia ever return? Now this is becoming a not so much of a discussion. However, it has been made into a poll in the community server. The poll was between keeping things the way they are with the 36% compensation or reopening Anarchia. Now, reopening Anarchia would come at a lot of risks for you guys, meaning one of them being that we cannot moderate any exploiters in that game, nor fix any bugs or update that game. That is a point on its own, to be fair. The second point is that you wouldn't get any compensation in this game. So, it was like a choose things the way they are or just go back to the way things were, but lose out on a lot more than what you are thinking you've lost out on. If that makes sense, it makes sense. If it don't, I'm happy to elaborate in comments. Is Blood and Ashes a scam? Simple answer, no, it isn't. How could it be a scam? That's my question to you guys, because we've done a lot of things, we've put a lot of things in place for you guys, and we're still being called scammers, which is totally like baffling us. This is me, I'm saying it in a respectful tone, I don't mean it in any disrespect or anything. However, we are totally confused by these accusations, and I can somehow see the point, however not really. More so no, because obviously a scam is a scam. At the end of the day, you don't get anything in return. Someone's taken something, you don't get anything. Whereas in Blood and Ashes, you are given something. So, yeah, that's just some... Yeah, that's that. There's no point elaborating on that when it's false. It is false. And I do think people are using that as a weapon against the owners a lot, just to villainize them and basically bully them. So that's that. We'll just leave that as that, because there's no need talking about a scam when it's not a scam, if that makes sense. What happened to Anarchia's funds? Now, Anarchia's funds, as I previously mentioned, is out of access for us now. Hence why the game is giving you 36% compensation, because the owners still need to make profit and still need to pay for development to progress the game. Obviously, you'll get more compensation throughout the releases of the Game Passes. So, Game Passes will return progressively, just not all at once. So, don't think for a second that you've been scammed or something. It's just a progress. It needs to... Obviously, the game is still new. It took 3 months to develop, and that was only because the owners wanted to get this out as soon as possible for you guys. That's why there's not a lot of characters and not a lot of abilities. So, obviously, there'll be more coming in updates, along with a more balanced gameplay, meaning that you guys could have fun during this game. As you can see, I'm getting mocked at this point. So, yeah. Now, the last point links to this point. Why are the codes so little? The codes are not little. They may seem little, but they're really not. So, Petals is a in-game currency. 1 petal equals 1 Robux, and petals can be used to buy tools such as red oak, white oak, outfits, game passes, just things like that, just to make it fair for those who are not privileged enough to have the money and the resources for the game passes. So they've made codes. Now they can't give you like 1k petals in a code. That's just so unrealistic, and you need to face that. So they are doing 100 petals per code. That's as of now. I don't know if it will change in the future. They may change, they may not. However, there will be events for petals. There will be more than likely giveaway for petals. Just those things that you need to keep an eye out in the community server. Now, we've seen videos on TikTok basically hating on the game, slamming the game and bashing the game in every little aspect that is possible. Now, obviously we appreciate feedback, but some people are doing too much, seriously. And you're just judging a game that's been out for 3 weeks at most, 4 weeks, a month. And it's just unnecessary, especially when the things that you're talking about isn't the entire truth. And obviously bringing staff into it. Staff are allowed to have an opinion, as I have an opinion, and you can't expect to have your opinion but then not obviously be confronted about it. There are ways to be confronted about it, and the staff have taken accountability for maybe coming in across too strong and too biased. I take accountability. However, there is a time and a place, in my opinion, and there's a difference between having an opinion and then having a total disrespect for someone's work, which we do not tolerate. So that's all I'm going to say on that matter. There's no point going into it because I'm not trying to give them the attention or the highlights that they are seriously craving at this point. My next point is B&A Blood and Ashes a copy? No, it's not a copy. The way you may think that it's a copy is solely because of the similarities in the development, and that's obviously okay to have. In any game, there's always going to be similarities. Obviously, it's a TVDU game as well, so there will be that kind of similarities. But these opinions of being a copy game are coming from the development. Now, we have developers that have worked for other games along with ours, so their work will obviously transfer to our game in the aspect of how they work and what they do. So those similarities are bound to happen, and people just need to accept that. Now, my final point is, why are we using the Anarchia community to promote Blood and Ashes? Now, that's just because we do not want the Anarchia community to be left out in the cold. So, obviously, as I've stated, Anarchia and Blood and Ashes are totally different. Blood and Ashes was never intended, nor is it replacing Anarchia. However, as it's made by the same people, and obviously has the same playing base, we thought it was necessary to just reuse that community server instead of remaking a whole new one, when obviously it'll be unfair for the Anarchia community to be left out in the cold. So yeah, that's that. But obviously, if there's any questions or anything that you want to have an opinion about or speak about, just either drop me a message or comment in the comment section, and I will be as total transparent and respectful as I can be. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and like, clock it. Love you guys. Ciao.
Glinda, exactly how dead is she?
Because there has been so much rumor and speculation, let me tell you the whole story.